Welcome to the Living in Oneness 5 Pillars for Success Summit. I'm Dee Meyer, and I am the Humanities Team University Coordinator and co-host of the Living in Oneness Summit. I'm super excited about today's call with Annie Burnside, author of Soul to Soul Parenting, and I will introduce Annie to you in just a minute. We are truly grateful to the nearly 16,000 people that have registered for the Living in Oneness 5 Pillars for Success Summit. Thank you for joining us today on the phone and on webcast and listening to the replay. We would love to give you a shout out during this call, so share with us your first name and where you're listening in from. And you can put that into the Q&A section of the webcast. And if you have any questions that you'd like for me to ask Annie, put them in the Q&A box on the webcast, and I'll bring your questions into the call. Also, let us know what are your takeaways from today's call and also the summit, and I'll bring these into the call too. And today, as a surprise, we are going to be giving away the Living in Oneness Silver Package valued at $193. And here's what you'll win. 27 downloadable interviews with over 30 leaders who speak about oneness and loving relationships in all parts of our lives. 27 downloadable interview transcripts plus the bonus A package, which includes these fabulous gifts. Co-creator ebook, Conscious Eating Meditation, 16 Hallmarks of the New Consciousness, Harmony and Balance Meditation, 3 Enlightenments MP3 course, Oneness Meditations, and Wake Up Laughing ebook. To learn more about the Living in Oneness offerings, visit thelivinginone.com/upgrade. What you need to do to win is write into the question and A section of the webcast your first name, last name, and email address. Also write one sentence, what I love most about the Living in Oneness Summit. Your purchase of the program goes to support the good work of Humanities Team, and we're grateful. Nanette Kennedy is the Humanities Team Communications Coordinator. She's here today producing the call. Thank you, Nanette. For those of you on the webcast, please enter your name and where you're listening in from, and Nanette will bring all of your questions in. So today you are in for a real treat. I have the great pleasure of introducing Annie Burnside. She's truly connected to Source and living and parenting through soul-to-soul connection, or in oneness. Annie is a modern bridge between the mainstream and the mystical. Annie is a soul nurturer, award-winning author, public speaker, and teacher, specializing in parenting, conscious relationships, authentic living, and spiritual development. Her book, Soul to Soul Parenting, won the 2011 Nautilus Silver Book Award and the 2011 Next Generation Independent Book Award. A former elementary school teacher in Evanston, Illinois, she currently blogs for Chicago Now, owned by the Tribune Media Company, and facilitates soul-to-soul circles. So welcome, Annie. I'm so excited to have you with me today. Could you lead us in a centering process after a moment here?
Yes, I would love to. And it's just an example of what I do with Soul to Soul Circles, which I run weekly, and we can maybe talk about later. But it's very brief, and when we're together in a physical way, which my circles are, then we end it with several moments of silence together, but I'm sure we won't be doing that today. So it's just an invitation here. Thank you, Spirit, Oneness, Universe, God, us, for gathering us here today in this beautiful space so that we may explore more fully our own interiors, so that we may learn to listen to the voice of our very own soul to live a more authentic life, so that we may actually feel the oneness in our daily choices, in our relationships, in our dreams. Thank you for assisting us in becoming more able to deeply listen to one another and to relate in a soul-to-soul way, whereby we move past the titles, the agendas, the masks, the personalities, and simply emanate and invite a true presence with one another. Thank you, the non-physical realm, as always, for the support, the enthusiasm, and the companionship that exists day in and day out if we are only open to it. Thank you for also all of the physical helpers in our life that provide insight, love, and support as we seek to expand oneness within not only our families, in our own backyards, our workplaces, our partnerships, our marriages, but on a global scale. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. I feel the energy of that just settling me down and really just connecting to you and to everyone listening. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Dee. Thanks for inviting me to do so.
Absolutely. Our subject matter, raising a spiritually conscious family, is so important. And the title of your book, Soul to Soul Parenting, suggests our oneness connection. Can you share with us why you are so passionate about your work?
Yes, I've been on this path officially since I was 19. My parents went through a difficult divorce, but it was also my first real time period of breaking open, and it changed the course of my life. From that period, which, yes, was very uncomfortable, painful, confusing, involved grief and many of the other, anger, many of the emotions that needed to be worked through and felt fully. On the other end of that, I found myself on the beginning of a journey through my own interior, and I didn't even know that was possible. My dad had given me a few books throughout the process, Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain and A Bridge Across Forever by Richard Bach, and I literally had tears streaming down my face as I began to read this material that felt so at home to me, but that I had never crossed paths with before. So anyway, this is just, I'm turning 44 this summer, and it's been my great passion for nearly 25 years. And once I had my own children, it became very clear that I wanted to offer them at a much earlier age than I had discovered it, the capacity to come to a greater intimacy with their own soul, and that place within where self-love and oneness meet, if you pierce deep enough through the layers, and navigate their life from that space, with the true belief that the more of us that do that, the more of us awaken to that beautiful eternal flame within, that's truly how we uplift our world, our businesses, our education models, our medicine, that the change really lies in that deep inner space for all of us versus trying to solve things on the external layers. So it just was my great passion. The book poured forth from what we do in our own family. It's a very personal book. It's a mother's awakening journey intertwined with how she begins to live it and offer it to her own children. So that's how it all began.
Wow. What came up for me as you were talking about being a child from a divorced family, I think that your work probably just has a huge impact for the parents and children of divorced family. Can you talk a little bit about how that can help?
Yeah, I think a big part of it to me, becomes just accepting and blessing each of our unfolding lives. And, I look at myself very fully as a blended being. I'm both human and soul, and simultaneously I'm living from that point where those cross. And with the human aspect of who we are, there are going to be challenges. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. There's going to be divorce. There are going to be health maladies. Of course, death is 100% guaranteed at different ages along the spectrum for us, for loved ones. And at the very same time, as you become to recognize who you really are as this eternal being, and not just intellectually, but I mean piercing that space where it's deeply felt and reverberates throughout the cells in the body, that space is always available. So you're navigating humanness from a larger perspective, from the cross space of human and soul. That's really the best way I can describe it, and within the oneness. And it just life begins to unfold that way. So there's more of an openness to something like a divorce, and to perhaps a relationship. The growth is complete, and there's unknown growth around the corner. There's unknown joy around the corner that might not look how we wanted it to look. And I say this, the acceptance of something like divorce or health malady, of course, the initial response from a human, even when you're in a blended being state, like I think you are, and knowing that the oneness is available, that initial response is still resistance. So don't be too hard on yourself. I still, if something pops up, my son breaking his wrist right at the beginning of travel baseball season last summer, that initial part of me, I want to fight what reality has shown up. But yet I think where we begin to see the barometer of our own growth, that resistance, the fighting against, lasts for much, much, much shorter periods of time. And even within the resistance and the tears, there's an awareness of the oneness and our soul aspect, which is an integral part of the oneness that never fades. So you're living both simultaneously, and to me that's where peace really comes from, ultimately peace within the paradoxes of this relative dimension in which we live. I hope that answered the question. Divorce is just one possible challenge.
Absolutely. And then for me, that just brought up another thing, because I recently lost my home in the floods in Colorado. Our family lost every earthly belonging, but we made it out as a family. We got our pets out. And for us, it really was shifting back into a greater view of who we are, a greater view of what our family is. And so it takes tools and it takes meditation. Do you have any kind of experiential way of dealing with challenges like that?
Well, first of all, let me say, Dee, because thankfully we're friends on Facebook, and, for those of us who interact in that realm, we uplift each other and we ache for each other. And I remember when that occurred for you, of course, the human aspect of me heart-ached for you and your family, and you can feel the pain and the fear and the stress. But also what I'm speaking of, it doesn't regard just into ourselves. Also, right along with that, there was a complete trust and a knowing and a joy, if I can call it that, without, there are no words exactly to express what I'm trying to say, but there is a joy in an unfolding life and what that brings. And I felt that simultaneously even amidst your challenge. And I think, obviously, from what you're sharing, you felt that too. It's like a second layer underneath the challenge that if you allow yourself, it opens up this whole new aspect. But anyway, tools for me, let's see. I'm a big believer in natural gateways, and I think all of us are unique in our oneness in some natural gateways. And I encourage parents to always be very observant. Their children at a very young age will most likely show a natural gateway, in other words, a way that they connect to their soul, and that's seen because it's a way where it's obvious they feel joy, they feel peace, they show enthusiasm, they show connection to self. But for me, nature, it might sound cliched, but I like a lot of being time, and I prioritize my life, even if it means less material, less money. My formula for success for me, I know now, includes lots of quiet time, lots of long walks. I live near a large body of water and always have. I head straight down there, not to do a fast power walk necessarily, maybe part of it's that, but to wander and to look up and to look around, and that soothes my soul. And it's also where a lot of my good creativity comes from. I take long bike rides by myself from my home all the way by the lake into downtown Chicago, and if it's warm, I jump in the water and I dolphin dive and swim. And I like a lot of solitude. Everyone's different. I look around, and a lot of my friends, walk and chat with girlfriends and go grab a coffee. And I'm a, personable person. I do enjoy some of that. But my formula for success, again, includes much more of the other, much more of the solitude. I also love music. So whenever I'm feeling disconnected, and I'm talking all kinds of music. I mean, it might be not just classical by any means, southern rock, blues. I spend a lot of time with music, and I can feel the energy moving throughout my body, and it is one of my greatest tools. So I would say music and nature, even more than a formal meditation practice. For me, I like my eyes open, looking around, observing a cardinal while sitting on a park bench, observing humanity. That's where I feel lit up. That's where I feel peace.
I think that is a meditation, seeing beauty in any form. And if you're out in nature, you will see it. So I want to back up a little bit because I just got on a roll.
Yeah, I
What
love that.
is a soul nurturer, and how were you inspired to become a soul nurturer?
You know, more and more, labels are so hard for me. I feel most comfortable the more soul naked I've become of just being Annie. Like, that's why I like my personal Facebook page more than a public page, because I wanted to be able to share all voices there. You know what? I had fiery Cheetos this morning, and then I just experienced the most incredible feeling of oneness. To me, I'm all of it. That having been said, being in a career that I'm in, you know, a business card, I have Soul Nurture on there. And for me, I absolutely created that title because it came to me on a walk one day, like, Annie, who are you really? What do you want to be for people? What do you want your contribution to this world to be? Not just officially in my work, but as a person, when I'm in Starbucks or within my own family, or when I'm, you know, saying hi to a lawn care worker who's working on the lawn 3 doors down as I head out with my dog. And Soul Nurture just came. It just felt, the texture of it felt really good to me. And looking back as a child, I'm an extremely empathetic person, and I talk about in both, I've got a new book coming out in both books. Extreme empathy for me has been a gateway and a nemesis, actually, where I had to really learn to factor myself in. But that being said, it's just a soul nurture. It just feels like unofficially what I've always done since I can remember being in about first grade. I remember even my teacher, I could feel when she was going through a rough time. So while I might be working on language arts, I remember a day very clearly. I wondered how she was feeling because she seemed sad. And it turned out later she was going through a divorce. But as a 6-year-old, kind of being aware of that. And so Soul Nurturer, really what I hope to have people do, there's no other agenda to my work other than helping them, if they so desire it, to have greater intimacy with their own soul so that they can know the oneness that exists within them. That's my greatest passion. That's the only reason why I do what I do. So,
you know, I think what's really interesting is empathy, and you developed that early on. So one of my questions that's coming to mind is, do you speak with your children about this? I'm sure they are too. They have that, and how do you walk them through the process of understanding your feelings, your thoughts, and that of others?
Yes, we've my children now, just so listeners can know and get kind of a clearer picture of who I am in the space that I'm speaking from. They are now 17 and 16, 2 girls who share a room. Oh my gosh, I just was up there, messy as all get out, lots of humanness there, and then a 13-year-old boy. And a husband who's a high school biology teacher and a coach. So a very normal family living, northern suburbs right north of the city of Chicago. But for me, I've really worked with we laid a lot of groundwork early on when we began starting when they were 4, 7, and 8. What the book is really about, it begins from that point of how we integrated spiritual consciousness into our family through family discussions, visual cues, and different things. But we really worked with our children a lot on multiple perspectives, sharing the same space. So always to be aware that someone's vantage point is very valid. It comes from the script that even they took on early on as a child. It comes from their natural gateways, their passions, and we have a right to ours and they have a right to theirs. And being able to discern the difference. And because I wasn't brought up this way, I was always brought up to the extreme empathy of only seeing the world through the lens of what another person needs and putting myself 3rd, 4th, 5th. Never first, my truth. We've really worked with our kids on balancing that their self-love with a high degree of empathy and what that feels like. And I've been very open with them that I've been learning it right along with them. To me, conscious parenting, it's simultaneous spiritual development within the family. Because if you're almost 44 like I am, chances are there's psychic debris and there's inner work and there's releasing others' beliefs that we took on as our own in wounds. And so if you're parenting at this stage, you're moving through that, working through your own shadow with the hopes that your children won't have the same level of psychic debris. They'll have some, of course, because everything's filtered through us as parents, and but I try and be as clear a mirror as possible for my children, and that's happened more and more as I've become more whole. And then, so actually the mirror that they've gotten has become more and more clear each and every year. I did my best when they were younger, but I was in the process of wholeness myself. And so hopefully our children, the children now, if they're raised with conscious parents, and that's kind of the hope that more and more are, they'll be up and running with their gifts without having to wade through layers of psychic debris like we did. They'll live comfortably within their own skin. They'll live true. If they love to sew, then they move into something where they're creating and working with fabrics, you know, and if they love working with the body, they become a conscious physical therapist who's soul to soul with their patients. I think that's the idea behind soul to soul parenting.
I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I'm working with my daughter as well on the thought process of it is okay to put yourself first. And like you, I'm working through this on my own as well. It's not just Andy, so it's kind of a balancing act where I learned through her and she learns through me because your shadow is revealed through this parenting process. It's really pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Very fascinating. And if we just kind of look at it, I don't know, I've grown so much easier on myself, and oh my gosh, just levity and humor and joy and the messiness of being human and the ups and downs of it. I'm so much lighter about it. And the thing that's helped me so much, I mentioned it earlier, but it's just this trust and love and actual awe of an unfolding human life and the ups and downs of it and the ins and outs of it. And the more I've come in touch with my own soul and that beautiful place within where I know the oneness, the more I've had the capacity to enjoy being human, and it's just, it creates so much more space for that. And that's what, I know you and the work that you do, I mean, you want to shout that from the mountaintops. That's why I'm on Facebook sometimes as much as I am. I don't know of any other vehicle just to share it, and not in a teacher kind of way. That's out the window. It's just as equals, as friends, is what I look on everyone as a spiritual companion, and it's because willingness to share our life and to live true, and to share all aspects of it, some of the messier parts and some of the joyous parts. And I feel such support from others on both ends, as I'm sure you do too, what your family just went through.
Absolutely.
The love for the heartache and the love for Dee. I'm so proud of you doing your life's work and having the courage to share it with the world. I want to be there to support others on their journey, for all of their journey, not just parts of it.
Yeah, I think Facebook is really a fascinating arena where we have the ability we're magnetized to groups of people, and it's just amazing that we all are inspiring and lifting each other up and supporting each other, just as you were suggesting.
I love, people question it sometimes, and I have to monitor myself. I know myself well enough to know. Usually I get off, and I've been on it just long enough, and I feel uplifted, and I feel supported, and I feel like I've supported others. I like to offer a comment or a like, just to say, I see you. I always say to my kids, and I like to model that for them, a good friend. I have several good friends. They're not really on the spiritual development path, fine by me, and maybe they do something that I'm really not that interested in, but it doesn't matter. I show support because I love them. I show support for who they are and whatever their heart's desires to contribute to the world are. Even if I'm not particularly interested in the content, I'm a big belief in supporting the individual. And I hope to model that, for our children. But as far as Facebook, to know yourself enough, sometimes I've been on a little too long, and, it's time to really tune back in, and then I can feel it in my body. I get off and I feel a little bit lethargic, tired, maybe a little bit diminished, then that's life, and I know to use that as a barometer to not stay on super long. It just depends. It's day in and day out.
Yeah, I've got so many questions coming in. I wanted to say one more thing about Facebook, and that is, it's an opportunity for us to support others, and I see you doing this all the time. But it's that you take the time to go out there and like something and make a comment. But you have so many friends that this simple act, this one little thing, really lifts them up. Having that connection is really an important piece of their day. So I appreciate all that you do for others.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me go in and take some questions.
Oh, yay, questions.
All right, let's see. Florence from Phoenix asks, can your book help a family that is going through issues? And what I mean is that there are a lot of hurdles with my young teenage sons, 13 and 15. Is it too late to turn things around using your book as a guide? I'd appreciate any thoughts you have.
First of all, feel for you, raising a family in the modern world. It's like we were saying, there are tremendous challenges, and more so for some families and kids and others. And to me, the parent-child relationship, when looked at from a soul-to-soul perspective, there's soul history involved that we might not even be privy to, relationships from even previously that we were involved in different ways with the soul that sits before us that is now our beautiful child. So we can't, there's some mystery as far as why certain things turn out the way they do within a family. But as far as my book, it's really more about, I offer lots of ideas, ways to begin to teach 15 spiritual themes, connectedness and boundaries, self-love, soul-to-soul versus role-to-role. But really for me, 90% of soul-to-soul parenting is the parent really committing to going down the path of self-exploration towards and into their own wholeness. As the parent begins to have greater intimacy with their own soul, begins to heal some wounding from their own childhood, which enables them to then joyfully self-express and live true and live more authentically. Quite honestly, that's the greatest gift that we can give to our family, and it's an ongoing organic process. It does not happen overnight. However, of course, it's never, ever too late. The parent-child relationship hopefully will last for, many, many decades. And I've grown a lot with my own mother, who's in her mid-60s, through my own growth, and vice versa. So really it begins with starting with the parent. That's the best advice I can give, and the book really explains how to do that, along with different things that you can do with your children, music, books, movies that you could watch together and discuss. But I can't stress enough that it's really up to the parent to become a clear mirror, which only means to know oneself much more fully, much wider, much deeper than society normally talks about. That would be the first step. Thank you so much for your question. I hope that helped in some way.
Absolutely. So, Annie, would you share with Florence how she might purchase your book too?
Yes. You know what? It's just Annie. It's on Amazon, Soul to Soul Parenting. But my website is Annie, A-N-N-I-E, Burnside, BURNSIDE.com, and you can hit the link right there, which will take you to Amazon, and that would be, just Amazon. It's not really, now this publishing different. It's not, I don't know if you could walk in Barnes & Noble. I just always say Amazon is the surefire way to do it.
Okay, great. Also, I want to say hello to Amy Gills, who's writing in from Bar Harbor, Maine. Thanks for being with us, Amy. Also, we have Rhonda from Rhonda from Connecticut. I have a 17-year-old daughter who recently experienced sexual harassment in the workplace, which resulting in my daughter's losing her job. She's clearly upset about this, as I am. We're having trouble reconciling our anger, going forward with pressing charges, and our belief in oneness. It seems a very cloudy area. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, yes. As a blended being, it's very important that we validate both our human aspect, which in this case would be angered, would perhaps insist on consequences. The natural consequences would, be to speak truth about what occurred and to let the justice system decide. That's, to me, there's no paradox between that and also in that deeper space and in our quiet moments, seeking to recognize the other individual as someone who has just simply forgotten who he is as a soul, as part of the oneness. And with that forgetting then acts from shadow versus soul. And if we really look at the world that way, to me, we have the capacity for the big love versus just the personal love for those who are ours, part of our family. And the blended being aspect has really, really helped me to blend both and be okay with both. Because when I first entered down the spiritual path, I was all about the light and oneness, and then I didn't have any boundaries. And I didn't, but we're all one. It's not really about that. It's about holding both simultaneously, trusting natural consequences, trusting your own truth. So if this, and I'm very sorry that this happened to this child, but if mother and child perhaps together get quiet and feel, what would our truth really be on this? You know what? Yes, I would like to speak up and out, and I would like to take this matter to the law. Then I think it's a direction that would be absolutely part of the oneness. Everything's part of the oneness. We really say to our kids, for each, if there comes a challenge, what should I do to get quiet? And then we might work with them. How would it feel with their eyes closed to move forward with taking this to the law? And then let them feel it and open their eyes. They might say, I feel relief. I feel a sense of purpose about that. I feel lighter. And then you'd say, okay, let's hold on to that. Now let's picture not saying anything, not prosecuting it. And they might say, I feel anger. I feel resentment. I feel hatred, or whatever it is. Then you move in the direction that offers the more uplifted energy, which in this case of what I just described might be going on with the prosecution. So there's no one right or wrong, but as human and soul, we have the right to our boundaries, and right within that we can still recognize the oneness, I believe.
We have another question from Michael in Maryland. My wife and I have a beautiful seven-year-old daughter who is autistic. Does Soul to Soul address anything like autism? If not, do you have suggestions for an awakened parenting with special children? Great question.
It is a great question. It does not address autism specifically. For me, Soul to Soul, it just being able to relate to people in that way, it really just clears even labels of autism, labels of ethnicity, labels of sexuality, labels of I am a business person, I am a good student, I'm a soccer player. It really, once you get practice in viewing the world from that vantage point, all of those labels are no longer as primary. They become much more secondary. We live as a human in a practical world, but it's a change from a primary lens to a secondary lens, all of the labels and identities. So I would say that's a really, really big start of just understanding and actually thanking and feeling appreciation for the beautiful eternal soul that is in the role of child at this point. That being said, in Chicago, I know that I've done a lot of channeling work. There's a wonderful channel and does phone too, in the city who works with children with different needs and different capacities, and that come with tremendous gifts that are not readily apparent to what we deem successful and productive and normal, quote, 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 on all of those words. So if I were a parent of an autistic child or a child who was struggling, I would absolutely be reaching out for help beyond just the traditional medical and behavioral communities to those gifted in seeing some of the soul history, some of the different energies that are not privy to just the modern eye and ear, if that makes sense.
It does. So Rhonda wrote back in saying, thank you. That's Rhonda from Connecticut. Thank you so much, Annie. You nailed it on the head. There has been a huge confusion in boundaries. This really helps.
Oh, good. Yay.
All right.
Wonderful, Rhonda. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I had about 30 questions, and we're not getting to many.
I love how this is flowing. Just perfect.
Let's see. So the core curriculum tools that your book offers include 22 soul-to-soul parenting vehicles and soul-to-soul parenting spiritual themes, which can be used to infuse new spiritual practices into daily family life, forming a foundation of spiritual companionship among family members and deepening understanding of the often unseen yet deeply felt aspects of life. Annie, would you share one of the practices that you cover in the soul-to-soul parenting?
Yes. Let's see. I want to say first and foremost, it's all about just using your ordinary daily life. The curriculum is every day. It's when your child comes home with a friendship issue off the bus, and actually taking the moment to share insights that might help that. That's a great, way to open to different vantage points or boundaries. Or there's an anger process in the book about actually feeling the anger and a way to work through anger on your own. My channeling teacher, Cheryl Naudet, taught this to me with a plastic wiffle ball bat. And feeling your true feelings. So everyday life, it offers opportunity after opportunity after opportunity once you commit to bringing your family along on your self-exploratory journey. So we use family discussions as one way that for years on Sundays when they were little, it'd be literally 5 minutes. I would, think a little bit ahead, pull a book off the shelf, not even necessarily a spiritual children's book, written by Eckhart Tolle. That's wonderful, but just a normal book, and read it and pull out, one theme. A theme, maybe there's self-love, maybe there's forgiveness, maybe there were boundaries needed in the book. Or if you watch a movie together, maybe taking a little bit further and deepening the message. But it's not meant to be more on your to-do plate. It's more just really about awakening to the beautiful unfolding life, being present within it, and then utilizing that to grow. So instead of woe is me, we like to say it's grow as me. So even every challenge, we allow ourselves to feel sad about it or angry about it. Those emotions have to be felt and passed through, but right along with that, we know that there will be opportunity to know ourselves deeper and wider.
Wonderful. So in your book, you speak about your process of opening up to divine flow, energy moments where you feel oneness with the whole of humanity and all that is. Do you have some sort of experiential exercise that you could share with parents and kids to help them open up to this incredible support from the universe?
Yes, well, when I started down, that's why Soul to Soul is such an important title for my book, and it's really what my work is about. I began practicing once I became aware of Soul to Soul as a possibility, like looking beyond the masks and actually seeing if I could feel and see what was underneath there. For when you would just be in the grocery store, no one has to know about it. I would actually observe the bagger, and I would think that is a piece of the oneness. That is God, bagging my groceries. And I had this little chart, and we even used it with our families, our whole family, when we began teaching them more about Soul to Soul and opening them to that possibility, which they would have to choose on their own, of course, if they desire to see the world through that lens. But for a full month, we notched off every single day, and it would be, remember, it's Soul to Soul versus roll to roll, and we had that up on our kitchen cabinet as a visual cue. And then we would talk about it at dinner. But one day when I was walking along near Northwestern University where I live, I looked over, and there was a lawn care worker. And Dee, I dropped into this space that I had never consciously dropped into before, and I can only describe it as oneness. My entire body just began tingling. These waves of energy. My scalp was I could feel the movement on my scalp. My eyes pricked with tears, and I became very breathless, not in a scary way, in a good, like good way. And there was just nothing but love. There was no separation between this lawn care worker, again, his title, his identity, and me. Annie Burnside, mother, sister, soul nurturer, whatever, all of that was gone, and it was just soul to soul. And so I guess my process was just becoming very open to what's unseen and really making it a practice to observe life from that way. And again, visual cue is a reminder. It didn't happen overnight, but then once that you drop into that space, it happens all the time. I'll be driving and see two boys walking with backpacks down the street, and there it is again. It's just the same exact energy going up and down in waves, the same oneness. And it's just, it's the greatest ecstasy I've ever known, and I wish that for everyone. It's possible for everyone. It's right there if you can pierce the soul to soul versus relate to people through the different masks and personalities and titles and identities.
I have a process that I use and have used for years, and it is it's a breathing process, and I think to myself that I'm breathing in love, and as I'm breathing in, I'm really thinking about what does love feel like, or you can use a child or a dear friend. You think about the energy of that person, how you feel about them. So as you're breathing in, you feel love. As you breathe out, you're exuding love. So it's just this figure eight process of just breathing in and breathing out love. And so you can do that at any time while you're driving, while you're walking. You're still present to driving and doing whatever you're doing. But you're shifting your energy. And so then I would encourage you, after you've done this, to walk around and then just look at someone and just think about love. I guarantee you they will feel it, they'll notice it, they'll be brightened by your day, by what you're sending them.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I love that you just shared that. Here's two of us. It has a very similar thread. It's worded a little bit differently, but there's no big magical trick.
No.
It's just really a willingness and a readiness to see and feel more than just the reality that we believe is so real. And once the door opens, it is just a floodgate. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an energy shift, and it is just being present to it. And it's so easy to access.
And you hold it, and this is what the question, I believe it was Rhonda, it becomes, once it becomes integrated, you have the capacity to hold the soul-to-soul space while you may simultaneously feel angry with someone and need to be speaking your truth from that human vantage point. The two blend. I can't stress that enough. It's not one or the other when you're embodied. It's called being consciously spirit embodied, and you feel both simultaneously. And that's a very, very powerful energy. So it's not just about becoming a doormat or not it at all. It gives you the courage to speak your truth, but from a larger perspective, and perhaps with love, even when you're saying, I completely disagree with what just occurred here, and in fact, I'm really angry about it. But there's still an energy of warmth and love and oneness behind it. And it's kind of hard to explain until you begin just seeing for yourself how you have the capacity to hold both singularity and unity in the same space without feeling that there's any contradiction between the two.
Wow, I think that's powerful. Okay, so what does spirituality mean to you, and how does it differ from religion?
More and more, Dee, I don't know about you, but now being on the spiritual path for about 25 years, I now almost even, spirituality can become a path that becomes a little bit dogmatic, or you can lose your own voice, or to me it's more now, I really almost prefer the word wholeness and knowing myself as a blended being. And I think religion can definitely, I run Soul to Soul circles. We have, for 8 years, I've been running them. And oh my gosh, one rabbi's wife, Catholic, my family doesn't go to church. When we do, we'll go to Unity Church sometimes because it seems to match kind of the language that we use. But, we don't affiliate or label or identify with any one religion, even though my husband and I both grew up Episcopal and he Catholic. But I think this spirituality can really enhance religion and expand it. I think the two can go hand in hand, because sometimes when you become more spiritual in your own right, in other words, direct divine connection is available at all times. You don't need a medium. You don't need any segue to do it. It's just, you don't need the church, in other words, to feel spiritual and to have a connection. But yet culturally, sometimes people still really enjoy it and really enjoy the ritual and really get a lot out of it and feel very connected to spirit and God when they go to church. So to me, there are just millions and millions of pathways, and some might include both. Some might leave religion and become more just personally spiritual. I've known some people's spiritual path take them more deeply back into the Catholic Church, for example, and to really feel the mystical messages that were always there and feel it in a new light.
Well, I've got a couple of things that I really want to get to before the end of our call today, and I want to learn more about your soul-to-soul circles first.
Yes. Oh, Dee, thank you for asking. It's really my most favorite thing of what I do. I gave a talk about 8 years ago, well before the book. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and someone, my eyes always lit up when I talked about the things that we're talking about here today. It was just my great passion. And so she said, will you speak at a women's forum on spirituality? And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm not a speaker, I've never written anything either. But I went home, Dee, and my soul, it gently said, yes, Annie, don't be afraid, share just from, not as an expert, but from your perspective and your experience. It might be valuable to other people. So I got up the courage, and funnily enough, as I was driving over, I'm Coming Out by Diana Ross began blaring on my radio, and I got that feeling of energy rising throughout my body. It was kind of funny, but and from that, some women heard me speak. This all just kind of hurt. My whole career is unfolded very organically, and they said, Annie, we love what you talked about with ideas for the family, but we would love some assistance in spiritually developing ourselves so that we can become more whole and live more true. And again, I went home and thought, wow, I've never run a workshop or done anything like that. And my soul said, yes, Annie, give it a go. And it's always been soul-to-soul circles were born. And I run 2 every fall. I go on a school schedule because I still have kids, and I don't do any in the summer. I run 2 in the fall, a series, and then 2 series in the winter, spring. I just finished up, and it's, my Friday circle has 20 women, and we were using the book Broken Open by Elizabeth Lesser. I usually pick a book just simply as a gateway for deeper self-reflection. We don't necessarily even always talk about the book, but it's an entry point and something that people can be reading on their own. And then in my Thursday afternoon group, we used When Fear Falls Away by Jan Fraser, and it is just the only thing I can say. We sit in a circle. There's a few things that we do. We do a big check-in. It's just, this, the only thing that we say, the only agenda is come just as you are. Come as you are. Be yourself. And I can't tell you, I could get teary-eyed thinking about it, just the love. It's just a space to come and love and be loved. And it's all been women so far. And it's mutually beneficial for me. I'm the facilitator, but the teacher and student-teacher live deep within each one of us, and that is absolutely the energy of the group. So I encourage anyone to start one. I think, our elderly would be greatly benefit having a soul-to-soul circle, teenagers, new moms, men, and you can create it. Some people call them presence circles, power circles, but there's something really, really special about it, and I know it's a highlight for my week and those who participate.
Wow. So, Annie, is it really important to be in person? Is this something that could be an online event? How does that work?
Yes. I think people have said, oh, Annie, you got to take this online. And I did try I do love the face-to-face. And I think ideally in all of our communities, I think it would be a real way to uplift our world. And we'd see many of the external things that we're concerned about change as each person begins to gain intimacy with their soul, like through a circle experience. But I tried it online, Dee, and I'm not as good at all that back-end kind of work. And then it involved a lot of different kind of promotional things, and it felt my tailbone begin to ache. So I'm not sure I quite have it down yet and how I would do it. I think I would need help. I would love to do it. I think it's very, very possible. And you heard me say earlier, I'm an online gal. I've created very real, wonderful friendships in the online realm. It'd be much like you and I are talking today, but it needs to be like how do people speak and join in. I just haven't figured that out yet. But I'm open to it. Yeah, I'm very open.
I think that we have more to talk about.
Good. I would love. I just need help.
Let me go into some of the comments that are coming in. Let's see. Amy B. from Holz Cove writes, thank you for helping to bridge some of the gaps between intellect and living the feeling body for me. I'm living lighter in the world because of the gifts I've received from Conversations with God books and Humanities team. Thank you for your work. Well, thank you, Amy. And Barbara from Guelph, Ontario writes, RE Autism. Love your comment, and I can suggest a book, Awesomeism by Susie Miller. Thank you, Barbara. Let's see if I'm missing anyone. Let's see. So Robert Stewart writes, I'm glad to see this Oneness Conference made available because it goes hand in hand with the Small Business Alliance, Hometown Business Alliance. We're growing across the nation and the world with purpose to create oneness in business and unselfishness in the world and business.
Love
Thank
that.
you. Isn't that amazing?
Love that. Yeah, to me, it's about awakening, and then it spreads into conscious business, conscious parenting, conscious health. That's the key. That's the only real answer, is that we all awaken, and then our world will change overnight as we come into the oneness. So I loved that comment. Thank you for bringing the business thing in.
Yeah. This hour has flown by. I have a hard stop, so in about 4 minutes I need to start wrapping up.
Okay.
But we haven't even mentioned relationship with your husband, which I would love to maybe just touch on how this...
Love to.
Go ahead.
Yes, Steve, thank you. He is, people I say, has he been on this path to wholeness? And he hasn't. He's kind of a naturally grounded person. He doesn't really speak the language that I speak, but oh my goodness, I mean, he's been teaching for 21 years. Had worked at a boys' camp as a counselor for 5 years before that. We have just really made the commitment to be ourselves within the family. And years ago, I used to think, I need to pull him along. He's got to, be doing the same things I'm doing. And I'd say for us, it's been extremely beneficial that, he's a little bit more earthy in a way than I am. We'll give family discussions, and I tend to get a little bit more esoteric and, speak how I'm speaking today. And he'll just break it down. Kids, here's a great metaphor. He's really good with real life metaphors. You're on the soccer field and you're running this way. That's what Mom's trying to say in her own way, and we work off each other. So, we're similar in some ways and not similar in others. The only thing that I would ask at a partner or a marriage, to me, a red flag would be if he, for some reason, was threatened by my growth or wanted to stop it in some way, or me, him. As long as we can hold emotional space for each other, which we very much can, and offer support and insight and advice when asked, and, I'll say, Jim, I've had the best day, or I'll say, Jim, I've been off the rails today. I feel like I'm up against a wall here, and he'll sit with that, and me with him. As long as that emotional space can be held, and I say to my kids, in a partner, I wish that for you. Look for, compassion, humor, and the capacity to hold emotional space. Then to me, that's what's important. So to answer the question, he teaches science. We found ways that we allow each other to be ourselves, and there's a deep love there, and our kids have witnessed that. And I think they appreciate both of what we bring to the parenting equation.
Wonderful. So tell us again about how we can contact you and how we can purchase books.
Just AnnieBurnside.com, and as we spoke, I'm on Facebook fairly frequently. Friend me. I do have a public page. You're welcome to like that, but I'm honestly more active on my personal page because I really enjoy a two-way street and just being fully myself. And you hear all sides of me. There could be something risque. There could be something very deep. To me, it's when we can blend the sacred and the sacrilegious, the profane, the profound, and that blended being space. That's what really, really excites me about being on this plane. So Facebook or my website would be the best way.
Okay. And also, when can we expect to see your new book?
You know, it's coming out this fall.
Mm-hmm.
It's called From Role to Soul, and really exploring the ways that we can move to our primary space being navigating the world and our life from soul, and have the roles really move into that secondary position. It's not a parenting book specifically. It's another very personal book. I get into a lot of the different smaller dark nights of the soul that were tremendous catalysts for growth. That assisted me in making I focus on 15 shifts that have occurred on my awakening journey and what that looks like. So
we'll have you back before, if we can, before your launch or at your launch. So
thanks. Thank you so much, Dee, and all the participation.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
So enjoy you. So I'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
Okay. Thanks,
all
everybody.
Right.
Thank you, Dee. Bye-bye.
So now we're going to announce the winner of the Living in Oneness Silver Package. Nanette, would you like to come in?
Sure. We have a winner, and this winner came from our webcast group. Her name is Amy, and she is from Halls Cove, Maine. And we do have her email address, so we will be in contact with you, Amy, for the details of your package.
Okay. So don't miss listening in to our complimentary 48-hour replays, or do purchase the upgrade package if you don't have time to listen into them now. So you can find out more about that and take advantage of the $100 discount on all of the upgrade packages right now at livinginone.com upgrade/packages. And be sure to stay tuned. We have in 30 minutes coming up, we have Steve Farrell interviewing the cosmic comic Swami Beyond Ananda, Steve Merriman. So I'd like to thank all of our volunteers, Steve Farrell, John Thomas, Nanette Kennedy, Carrie Beach, Todd Kramer, Melissa Pori, Julian Cole, Jewel Alexander, Eleanor Healy, and Debbie Satofsky for all of the great work you're doing. And also, I wanted to invite you to take a look at our upgrade page, and that is livinginone.com upgrade, and find out more about our packages. We're offering one that has the MP3s, transcripts, and CDs for the 30-plus speakers this year, plus the 2013 programming, including Panache Desai, Ken Wilber, Irvin Laszlo, and Joan Borisenko. And also, I'd like to invite your friends to join the summit. So thank you so much for being with us today, and join us again in 30 minutes for the Steve Merriman interview with Steve Farrell. Thank you so much. Goodbye.